evening and welcome to tonight's Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I am Oyi Opala. Let's begin. The conflict in Ambazonia, often described as an ongoing war, stems from the Ambazonian people's struggle to reclaim their sovereignty after decades of perceived colonial occupation. Since the colonial regime's grip tightened on Ambazonia, it has been marked by widespread impunity, mass arrest, and systemic human rights violation. Ambazonians continue to face harassment and detainment without cause as part of an ongoing campaign to suppress the movement for liberation. In towns like Bamenda, the colonial army has restored to routine abduction, often seizing young men on mere suspicion and holding them in colonial detention centers. Recently, a dozen young men were detained by colonial forces in Bamenda and remained in custody, awaiting trial before colonial courts, notorious for their bias and lack of due process. These so-called kangaroo courts rarely allow the accused a fair hearing, and the challenges and charges are often arbitrary, accusing detainees of being threats to the colonial regime without presenting concrete evidence. This hostile environment has fueled Ambazonia's resistance, with many advocating for an independent and sovereign Ambazonia where basic rights are protected and justice prevails. International observers, including prominent advocates of human rights, have expressed concerns over these abuses, calling for greater scrutiny and action to address the systemic repression faced by Ambazonian people. At a time of heightened tension, the Amazonian movement for liberation remains resolute, driven by a vision of a nation free from colonial oppression, with governance rooted in justice, accountability, and respect for human rights. The global community's attention is crucial as Ambazonians intensify their efforts to end colonial rule and secure a future that upholds the rights and freedoms of their people. Well, we'll begin here, but first let's get the prime headlines. Here are the prime headlines. Ambazonia's education in Jeopardy as thousands of teachers flee amid escalating violence. Tonight on Undaunted, many are in Colonial dungeon awaiting trial in Bamenda after a raid by the Colonial Army. Colonial authorities have banned students' parties in Tuba local government area, saying that such parties would expose students to kidnappings and harassment. Free renders and fire renders La Republic to Cameroon Divisional officers homeless. All the Africans seeing Mauritius at a democratic crossroads, high-stakes election amid scandals. And of course, on the foreign scene, Trump is already wielding power and causing massive disruption. Now let's get the news in full briefings. Many are in colonial dungeons awaiting trials in Bamenda after a raid by the colonial army, reason being that what they want to do is that they want to get those behind bars, the assassination of the second deputy mayor to their Bamenda council. Now, this report says that a dozen young men have been abducted in Bamenda by the Colonial Army. Those abducted are currently in Colonial cells pending to appear before the Colonial courts for trials. Those abducted are accused of being suspect and connected to the killing of Njoko Frida, who was the second deputy mayor through the Colonial Bamenda Council. The colonial judiciary system is such that you are declared a criminal even without any form of trial. It is for you, as the victim, to prove your innocence in court. You that are unable, or those that are unable to convince the judge that they are innocent, will rot in jail. Therefore, many are guilty until proven innocent. With this colonial law, those abducted will have to prove their innocence even though the system is unable to prove that they are guilty. You will recall that Njoko was picked up on the 6th of November 2024 as she was returning from taking part in the outlaw party for the projection of a movie about Paul Beer. Her lifeless body was only discovered a day after. In this, the government of Ambazonia, through its spokesman, Dr. Martin Mungwer, has already condemned this killing through a communique, increasing moral wellness or the insecurity faced by Ambazonians. Barrister Mbeseha. These particular incidents of random abduction, we have talked and talked about it, but this is also a very terrible one because we know that there has been insecurity around Ambazonia for the longest time, ever since the war began. And so going around arresting innocent men, what could be their interest at this point?
Let me say this. I don't know what their interest is, but let me analyze it from this angle. We know that this crisis turned into war actually started in 2016. And one of the reasons that brought the lawyers to the streets was that they wanted us, Ambazonians, to have our common law system. These were lawyers. What does the common law system allow for in situations such as this? First, somebody has been killed. In other words, a crime has been committed. It is the responsibility of the investigative authorities, called the gendarmes or police, to investigate and bring suspects before a trial court. Investigation means a lot of things. Like in the common law system, like in the Francophone system, in Cameroon in particular, there's a procedure for doing those things. They call it the Criminal Procedure Code. It's codified. Arresting people at random in the streets is completely outlawed. It's not because they kill you or kill me or they wounded you or me. They go down the streets and catch anybody. That is a complete failure of the procedure. And under the common law, if the procedure is so vitiated, it vitiates the trial, and the suspect goes away. I said here before, under the common law, it is better for the criminal to go away unpunished than for an innocent person to be sent to jail. So why are they not doing this? They will take those guys, whoever they are, and present them before a certain magistrate sitting somewhere in Bamenda, in upstation. These lawyers, these magistrates, and the lawyers in that court are supposed to follow the common law procedure. Because at the very least, after 2016, one thing we succeeded in 2016 was to make sure that they don't send their Francophone lawyers and magistrates to our courts. Why are our brothers and sisters sitting in Bamenda not doing the right thing procedurally? Not telling, because Janam, the police, is an agent of the prosecutor. The prosecutor, in the summary, is the state council. After adopting those people there, after arresting them, whatever thing you do, they don't take it to court. They take it to the state council, who is the rightful person to file a charge against you. So the gendarmes and policemen are their agents. Unfortunately, 90% of them are francophones, trained under the francophone law, trained to execute those adoptions and so on in the common law system. And so our brothers and sisters who find themselves in the courts, be they prosecutors or magistrates, they have their hands tied behind them. We can dismiss those charges. Dismiss those charges at the peril of your. And so it is a total failure of the system, which should not be allowed to exist. And I'll conclude this in one case study, which is like somebody, I was in Boya then, an alleged crime committed an armed robbery crime. This alleged to have stolen with the resource. That man was a student in Form 3, so could read and write English. A student from 3, quite educated. And so the police to this guy, or whatever thing they did, took him to the station, wrote his statement for them in French, forced him to thumbprint or sign it. The thing got to court. We raised the issue. The magistrate asked him from 3. Why did he not on statement? The police investigated to prosecute had no answer. And what happened to this boy? The case was struck out. He was my client. He had told me himself that he was involved in that thing. But because they said the procedure of investigating properly or following the laid down rules, this boy went free. The judge was a Cameroonian judge, an Ambazonian. But no, he went to law school in London, out to Cameroon and joined the judiciary. And so, what is going on in Bamenda, as anything in Ambazonia, is a total of the system. It's a total failure of him, which should never have been there. Whatever this does, the streets and picking him down the road because a certain woman is dead, or whatever, it's not the procedure. Yes, they have been kept in detention there. If the trial will take years, if it ever takes years, they're there. If were 10 of them, half of them get money, and probably that's highly possible. And so that is just wrong. It's a wrong procedure, which the court should not tolerate. The lawyers, the eyes of the law, they are the assist court. They should point these things out. I need a wrong win in the magistrate court, the court of first instance, or high court. To win, assuming that we have reasonable Ambazonian streets. Then, even the magistrate behind them, because they dismiss the charges or they don't bring the charges in house, will be dismissed from their jobs in Yaoundé. Failure of the legal system, that's failure of the judicial system, an attempt to turn the common law, the civil law of minor prosecutions. It is wrong. Encouraged. Let those people community, let them follow the right procedure to investigate them. For the right procedure, you hit them. And the chips will fall below. Over to you.
Yeah, very sad. We have this other report that shows insecurity as well, from the home front, precisely in Tuba, local government area. But before then, I would want you to, share your thoughts on the fact that tomorrow would be having Heinz and Mr. Tar, come up tomorrow to emphasize on some of these insecurities, especially the Kansas 3. What would you have to say about that? We need you to encourage Ambazonians to, prepare themselves and turn up for the conversation tomorrow. That will be starting at 8 p.m. Amber time.
Mm, I think we have spoken a lot about it. What is coming up tomorrow is just to update us, for us to be reminded that the Kansas City 3, those several months, almost 2 years in jail, are not forgotten. We've not forgotten about them. Yes, it turns out, City 3, their case, has turned from just being criminal to political. And so you find what Professor Hine to say, I don't know what you said, but I was hired a lobbyist, and it's also a lawyer, but he lobbies. So for us to come there to get the full updates, again, the behind it is to let any Ambazonia and the family of the council know that this government is not sleeping. If they are there at this point, it is not because someone ignored them. We'll continue to do what it takes, and hopefully you'll get out of it. And that is just the question of, again, to go free. But it's very good to come to and listen to Professor Hine for the updates of what purchase that are not purely Ambazonian, how far we've gone. It's good to come there. Professor Hines and other experts, they don't come and they are not doing charity work. We pay them. And that should remind us, every individual, that your dollar, your matters in this freedom of the Kansas City 3 and many others. Justice is expensive in terms of cash. Justice is expensive in terms of the pain. So, a combination of this, we're putting the effort. We can at least minimize the pain. Over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Barrister Mbeseha. Now let's go over to more insecurities. Colonial authorities have banned students' parties in Tuba local government area, and of course, we want to know why. Now, the full report of this particular story says that the Colonial Divisional Officer in Tuba, Machugei Masango, has issued a colonial order banning all students' parties around the University of Bamenda campus. Well, according to him, he says students who attend parties around student residential areas or leave their homes are often victims of kidnappings and harassment. And this is quite worrisome because these are the same persons who are projecting that there is normalcy on the ground. Now, the outing of the DA is a proof that the colonial regime is accepting the fact that they have nothing to offer as maintaining their security of students and their properties as concerned. Now, in the real sense of it, they were to step up security rather than depriving students of their rights to free time and association and even enjoyment in schools. Now, the colonial DOs can only take such a decision because it is the colonial army under his provision that is responsible for some of these insecurities, as it were. That is still on one part of education. Going further to another part of education, the Ambazonia education is in jeopardy, as it were. Thousands of teachers are fleeing amid escalating violence. So this is all about education dying on one end, and of course, insecurity on the rise on the other part. The ongoing war in the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, waged by La Republic de Cameroon, has exacerbated a severe teacher shortage, with thousands of educators abandoning their posts amid escalating violence and instability. The colonial government's failure to address the root causes of this war has left schools in dire conditions, impacting their education of countless children. This year, over 3,637 secondary school teachers have left their positions in the Federal Republic of Ambazonia and La Republic de Cameroon. Well, according to La Republic de Cameroon Secondary Education Minister Prof. Nalo Younger, a total of 1,509 teachers have quit recently, despite warnings that absent teachers could face panels. Absenteeism continues to rise, especially in Ambazonia. as it is currently facing a war. In February, it was reported that 2,128 teachers were unaccounted for, many having fled the country for safety or better opportunities. The war also affects civil servants, with many leaving their posts while still receiving salaries. The colonial government claimed to have initiated measures to address this issue, instructing its department heads to identify absent workers has failed. Meanwhile, La Republic de Cameroon's upcoming 2025 budget plans aims to dismiss 8,125 government employees who have not reported to work. Why do this when security is a challenge? Rooted in systemic marginalization, the ongoing war in British Southern Cameroon has led to a breakdown in essential services. UNICEF estimates that over 700,000 students are currently deprived of their rights to education, as 80% of schools in the affected regions remain closed. The escalating teachers shortage is blamed to be a direct result of the colonizers' inadequate response to the ongoing war, jeopardizing the future of countless students in the Ambazonian territory as a whole. Barrister base here. This particular report is a very sensitive one. While teachers are scared because of all of the insecurities that we've pointed out, they are also scared of losing the job that they have because the government, the colonial government, wouldn't stop threatening them. What's your thought on this?
I think what is going on is the inability or the unwillingness of and its agents to properly tell the story. Let us start from the Tuba thing and the duo of Tuba banning social gatherings because, in quotes, according to him, he wants to protect the students. Well, he thinks that the danger, if any, is fail students. He thinks that the danger, if any, is that they are arrested in bars and social places. Anywhere better wrong than that. If there's anything true, and in particular around the University of Bamenda, it is not the students go to socialize in bars. But I guess during himself in the bar, but he lives in a house guarded by armored cars. What's he guarding his house armored cars late in the night? If he's so guarded by armored cars, the thousands of students renting room, sharing what several of them in the quartiers, how is how the of violence. The violence is from 1% by the government, the agents. We've all known what goes on in Bamenda there in Batibo University. They both attacking people there. They are not Ambazonia ASAs. They are and were ADF people. ADF was still government. And so blaming the poor students for venturing to go out to socialize is just the wrong approach. I refuse to analyze. I guess we're going to come back to the burning of the Jews' house. But let me go to the teachers losing their jobs or not being present. Again, they realize the thing. The teachers did not walk away. The teachers ran away for their lives. And with them, the children that they were supposed to teach in schools. The children and the teachers were not running away from separatist fighters. No. They were running away from the collective violence. The army in different forms, police, call them gendarmes, or whatever you call them. And so they closed the schools naturally because all the schools were day schools, from secondary schools to primary school, they're all day schools. They go there with parents. They live in their own homes and attend the school. And so if their children, the teachers If the parents have fled, they fled with their children. If their children still there under the guns and protection, they are teaching nobody there. I give an example of the BLM. The department BLM has virtually closed down and moved officially to Chang in the Republic of Cameroon. Rented offices there. They're there. In the BLM, who are supposed to live there, they live in Chang. In other words, they don't go to war in the BLM. And if they went to war in the BLM, they're walking down. So they're protecting them. They can't be there. But they want the ordinary teachers in the village to risk his or her own life there. But above all, in the BLM, like other places, the bulk of schools are government schools. What did the agent of the honorable minister do? They officially moved the teachers away from that place, but track them to areas they call safe areas. So why move the teachers away and then complain that they have abandoned their own job? It's genius. And then the teachers, the second aspect is the teachers are fleeing in their droves, in thousands, not just to becoming internally displaced in Douala, in Bafoussam, some places, but beyond the boundaries of Cameroon, jumping them without a swimming dress, going through the desert without young shoes even to wear, because there's no peace at home. Even when they worked, there was literal or no money to pay them. I know people who had worked 2010, teachers who have not been paid. The bulk of them remain on what they call advanced salary, which was perhaps 50,000 a month. So the failure of education system, Madam Minister, is essentially due to your ministry. In other words, to the department entrust education to their honors. It's not the teachers. Teachers, like human beings, they have families, they have wives, they have children, they have husbands, they have to feed. If you are not providing them this, it is their absolute right to go and look for escaping for their lives. Who is the teacher? These are the civil servants. Their salary is nothing compared to what you mean, even the chief office and your bodyguard. One of you, them anymore. And so this disparity are making teachers, making the victims of the corrupt government, the victims of the unaccountable, to become criminals. It's just wrong. How many times has the minister, for example, there are so many secondary schools, say, for example, in Momo. How many schools have still visited Momo the past 7, 8 years? Zero. Why are you not going there? Why are you not going to Ngokutinja? Why are you not going to Kupe Manengumba and Dian? The best place you can go to, which you go to all the time, is to come to boat, because you have enough amount to come to Bamenda. Because they are not possibly helicopter to fly you around. Yes, you have that privilege. You privileges. You, the minister, or whoever the regime. How many victims of this war will enjoy the privileges of Madam Muna Eluma, Madam Warendi, the presidential appointed senator, who pretended to be adopted, and she will come back to town captivity in a helicopter military planes. That's a lot of money. Planes flying you cost money and time. How many Ambazonians have that privilege to do that? Zero. Zero. So, the fault is not that of the teachers. It is not the teachers you should blame. If the teachers One teacher, thousands of teachers have fled and left the job. They are not going to the job because they no longer want. You don't need to tell us. Take their names out of the payroll. You're looking. If I don't go to my work, you don't need to tell the world I'm not working. If you truly I'm not working, take me off the payroll. If the version of the story is true, that you are sure they have gone abroad, they've gone to Canada, gone to the US, they've gone to Europe. Well, why not take them off your payroll? You need them. You don't need the permission of the world to do that. The fact that you're complaining is just the failure of the system to which you are trying to belong. The failure of you are trying to manage. The attempt to carry water in a basket. It won't work. Over to you.
Barrister Mbeseha, it really wouldn't work. And I think I agree with you. All right, this is a very sad one. We've been talking about fire incidents since the beginning of the year, and it's not about to stop. 2 days ago, the home of the divisional officer for Tuba, an element of the colonial administration, was consumed by fire. There still is some controversy. A suspicion on the incident points towards the Ambazonian Defense Forces, the ADF. One individual has been reported injured, and this is currently receiving treatment in the hospital. But we know that this is just a blame game to want to shift away from the fact that there is supposed to be fire service that has never been provided for. Chuba is a town and communes located in the Mbeseha Division of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, experienced a tragic event as the home of its colonial divisional officer was destroyed by the flames. The fire, which broke out under unknown circumstances, is believed to be the work of the Amazonian Defense Force, a group dedicated in chasing away all elements of the colonial power from their Amazonian territory, but definitely not the group under President Samuel Ikomesako. Now, reports indicate that at least one casualty has emerged from the incident, with the individual now hospitalized due to injuries sustained during the fire, leaving the local community in shock, grappling with the implications of this attack on the colonial administration. La Republic du Cameroon's authorities are investigating the incident and aiming to gather more information about the circumstances leading to the fire and the identity of the injured party. While some social media platforms like Betty Things claim that the ADF are only suspects of the attack, Kemi Ashu, a human rights activist fighting for the restoration of the statehood of Ambazonia, has made bold declaration on Facebook that the incident was indeed the doing of the ADF. The situation in Tuba remains tense, and the community awaits further updates on the investigation and the health of the injured individuals. And we also expect that investigations should be on the increase. Barrister Mbeseha, fire incidents can be a natural disaster. I know you would agree with me. But when it begins to be a regular occurrence, accusing fingers can be pointed here, there, and there. But we will not ignore the fact that regardless of the numerous fire incidences that we've recorded this year, there is still no emergency of fire service whenever it occurs. So this could mean that there is actually, or there are people who are doing this, and the colonial government could know and just probably keep mute. Do you disagree with me?
No, I don't disagree with you. But I only give us to clarify what you are trying to say. You say, what happened of Tuba? Isolated event. Call it fire accident, or whatever thing you call it. The summary is that there's no sick in that place. Because remember, this is the duo. This will take us back again to the duo of Idabato. Who is the duo? The duo by Cameroon is the personal representative of the President of the Republic. He represents Etudi, the ministry. No, he represents Paul Biya himself. Tuba is not Tuba is not somewhere. It's not somewhere in the BLM. It's the middle of Bamenda. Tuba is one of the edges. That's where the University of Bamenda is located. So it's in the middle of town. Tuba is not far from where the French ambassador came on street and said there's peace. Imagine the governor has, wherever he lives in Bamenda or in Mbeseha, the Jew who lives in the middle of town has the same protection. And so, well, where were the security guards when this incident took place? Whoever did it, in their own eyes of the administration, in the eyes of Yaoundé, that guy is a criminal. Call Ambazonia, call him a thief. He's a criminal. The central question: where people they claim can protect. And so sitting in the middle of Bamenda, protected by armored cars, with the facilities and bringing in firefighters from Bafoussam. They would have flown them in. They didn't do it. Thanks be to God, if the story is true. The occupants of that so-called house, nobody died. They can go to it and pray 10 more times. I feel it again. Clearly, I don't know who was the person. That person be an by origin. Security means nothing to them. And so if the personal representative state in his own residence, because that's where he sleeps, it's not the office, it's residence. They come at night thinking, man, either to steal his money or for political reasons, they come at night. If he has no security for himself, in spite of the much counter security claims by animals, jeeps, all the beasts you can find in the world, if he has not living in Bamenda there, what do you expect an ordinary Ambazonian to have? As I change it back to what I said, that place in Bamenda, Madame Mundi has security. They adopted her. According to them, it disappeared. I was brought back in a military plane, but not by that she had been adopted, an old man like that. She could or unwillingly suffer some torture under the arrest. And so, two individuals, they are your grandparents, they are your uncles and brothers. If they don't have security, what do you expect to get? The honor ambassador in Bamenda, I know where it's in Ambazonia, is to ask French ambassador 6 months ago in an attempt to promote normalcy and stood out there publicly wearing carrying a peace plant. People to return back to their houses, to do everything in the money, not remember the amount, to bring security, to bring peace to Bamenda in particular, and perhaps to Ambazonia in general. Where are they kept? Where were they? The French ambassador is at France is at the forefront, not at the backyard of this war. France is the one giving you force that you're going to people and trying to defy Mr. Wilbur again. I've always quoted him. Like, you can bring all the military, including the ones from France, you will not defeat. That's what Wilbur said in 19. Based on what is going on now, can whoever speculate the peace in Bamenda, including the Archbishop of Bamenda, and any other person who pays for this thing, tell you conveniently that normalcy has returned? Now, again, thank God that that guy called the duo, his family, those who live in that house, at least according to the story, none of them died. But that we're on this journey of no return until we set ourselves everything that represents Yaoundé in Ambazonia, be in the forest, be in a small town, be in a village, be in the city center like Bamenda, you are a target until we shall be free. We're not supposed to be here. You forced us here, and we will not get to stop being free. No matter the costs, no matter the pains, no matter what it takes. Over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Bryce Base here. And like I said before we started, sincerest apologies for starting behind schedule today. Tomorrow is going to be a one-on-one discussion with Professor Hines, and I'm sure that Ambazonians and the world at large would be seated for that particular conversation with Mr. Tar as the moderator and the host of that show as well. So this is also a gentle reminder that tomorrow is the date and 8 p.m. is the time. A major discussion would hold, talking about the Kansas City 730 days confinement. This particular interview with Professor Hines is recommended for all Ambazonians and for all lovers of freedom and liberty. All right, thank you so much, Barrister Base here, for being part of this conversation. We hope that we'll see you probably tomorrow or some other time on Undaunted. Hello, Barrister Base here. I'm bidding you farewell, yes, because I hope to see you tomorrow on Undaunted. All right, coming up next is news across the globe and Africa. In Mauritius, a tightly contested election has left citizens awaiting the official results as both incumbent Prime Minister Brevand Juggernaut and his main opponent, Navin Ramgoolam, claimed victory. The voter turnout was exceptionally high at about 80%, with ballots counting beginning on Monday. This election took place against the backdrop of a phone tapping scandal that has fueled public concerns over the state of democracy in Mauritius. Although authorities initially attempted to ban social media, they reversed the decision following widespread backlash. Juggernaut's militant socialist movement faced off against the Ramgoolam's Alliance of Change, with both candidates promising solutions to the rising cost of living. Despite the country's strong economic performance, a notable factor in the election was Britain's recent historic agreement to cede the Chagos Island to Mauritius, a diplomatic win for Juggernaut. However, there are still concerns about governance and political dynamics. A new reformist blog, Leading Reform, is advocating for change, highlighting a glowing and growing desire among citizens for fresh political perspective. Let's head to Sudan. Over 680,000 Sudanese refugees have crossed into Chad, fleeing violence into their homeland. In the past month alone, 60,000 new refugees have arrived, most of whom are women and children who have endured long, perilous journey on foot. Many have shared harrowing stories of survival, with some witnessing loved ones killed in their homelands. We had nothing left, and part of my home was burned down. We lost all our livestock and cherished possession, one refugee recounted. However, Chad, a country already struggling with limited resources, is grappling with the massive influx of displaced people. The United Nations has called on the largest refugee crisis in Chad history, exacerbating the country's existing challenges of economic instability, poor infrastructure, climate impact, and food insecurity. In a context of continuous humanitarian emergencies and underfunded support, UN High Commissioner Filippo Grandi emphasized the need for sustainable solutions for prolonged displacement that also supports host communities. News across the globe is next. President-elect Donald Trump is already showing his strength and influence, indicating he may try to bypass Washington's system of checks and balances. This has left foreign leaders scrambling to understand his victory and its implication. Trump's actions at Mar-a-Lago, where he's building his new administration, suggest he will take both steps when he returns to the White House in January, backed by a significant win and a Democratic mandate. Trump has taken to social media to direct Senate Republicans running in the majority leader election to support recess appointments for his cabinet nominees. Notably, all three candidates have expressed openness to the idea. This move reveals Trump's intention to lead a GOP-dominated government with unchecked authority, viewing Congress as a rubber stamp rather than an equal branch of government. Some experts fear Trump may try to undermine democracy through voter suppression and misinformation. The Brenham Center for Justice wants that Trump's allies are devoting significant resources to obstruct voting, including fighting lawsuits brought by Democrats and voting rights advocates. Additionally, there are concerns about Trump's potential to spread false information to confuse and demoralize voters. Meanwhile, Qatar has announced that it is pausing its mediation efforts for a ceasefire in Gaza between Israel and Hamas due to a lack of willingness from both sides to reach an agreement. This decision comes after Qatar had been a key player in mediation efforts for over a year. Majid El Ansari, spokesperson for Qatari Foreign Ministry, stated that Qatar had warned the parties that days prior that it would stall mediation efforts if no agreement was reached. The three-phase proposal for a ceasefire, drafted by Egypt and Qatar, had endorsed by Hamas, aimed to release Israeli hostages in exchange for the Palestinian detainees, establish a permanent ceasefire, and initiate a reconstruction process in Gaza. However, negotiations have stalled, and President Joe Biden's priority of reaching a ceasefire and hostage release deal remains unfulfilled. Unfortunately, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has expressed reluctance to accept a permanent ceasefire, and the negotiations have stalled. The closure of Hamas' political office in Qatar capital further complicates their situation. Meanwhile, in BRICS payment system initiative by the BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa aims to facilitate cross-border transaction among these countries, bypassing traditional financial infrastructure dominated by the US dollar and Western institutions. This move promotes financial independence within the bloc and reduces reliance on existing financial systems like SWIFT, which are susceptible to sanctions and influence from Western countries. The motivation behind BRICS Pay has both economic and political roots, primarily to reduce reliance on the US dollar, which has been the worst primary reserve currency for decades, by creating direct payment channel where local currencies can be used instead of relying on the dollar. BRICS countries see greater control over their transactions and reduce exposure to the shifting tides of US economic policies. China has backed BRICS Pay, and the system is expected to feature a decentralized cross-border message system operating without a central power and owner or hub. While specifics underlying infrastructure are still evolving, it's expected to employ secure transactions protocols and use blockchain elements or digital ledger technologies to ensure transparency and minimize transaction costs across border. The success of BRICS Pay could encourage other countries outside the bloc to adopt or integrate similar systems, paving the way for a multipolar financial world. This is where we'll come to the end of tonight Undaunted. But before we go, let's take a look at the major highlights. Well, tonight on Undaunted, we told you that Ambazonia's education is in jeopardy as thousands of teachers flee amid escalating violence. Tonight, we told you many are in colonial dungeons are waiting trials in Bamenda after a raid by the colonial army. On the other hand, colonial authorities have banned students partying in Tuber as well. Meanwhile, fire rendered the La Republic de Cameroon Divisional officer's home and renders him homeless. All the African sin, we told you, that Mauritius is at a democratic crossroads as the stakes are higher, as election scandals rise. While Trump is already wielding power and causing massive disruption. This is where we end tonight's Undaunted. Special thanks to the technical crew who made tonight's Undaunted possible, and of course, our in house analysts. Tomorrow, we'll have the special date with Professor Hines and, of course, Mr. Time. Make it a day. Good night and God bless.